Right, hello everybody and welcome back to our next set of drive time video call interviews during these, should we say, difficult times. And I'm very, very happy to welcome a very good friend of mine, Mr. Miles Cook. Miles, welcome to the show, I suppose we could call it.
Hi Ian, nice to see you again. Nice to speak to you again.
It's always a pleasure, Miles. And look, we want to have a bit of fun, but we want to know about you. We want to know about what it is you do in motorsport. So let's kick off with that, shall we? How are you involved in motorsport?
How am I involved? I've always loved motorsport. I've always loved Formula One growing up, watching Damon Hill win in Suzuka, going downstairs quite early in the morning. I actually got to put the TV on myself rather than my mum hogging it with EastEnders on a Sunday afternoon.
Yes.
And I'd played Gran Turismo and absolutely loved the idea of one day getting to race. But that always seemed a pipe dream. But I think the thing that tipped me over the edge was, and I can remember it very vividly. So I was up in Catterick on a 2-week army course for infantry. I used to do
Yorkshire way,
quite cold at the time. It was December, and we didn't have a lot of downtime. But we were chilling out, watching some TV in an affy, and the Top Gear episode was on where they did Brit Car Endurance.
Yes,
I know that they get got a lot of caning for that in the motorsport community. But I watched it just as a Top Gear fan and a motorsport fan, and I absolutely loved it. That endurance element, that teamwork element, the emotion, the obviously it might have been a little bit scripted, but I thought at that moment I have to do this. I absolutely have to. I'm gonna have to somehow, but I need to do this. So I had visions of sponsoring myself with my own company to go racing. A few years later, I finally took the plunge and just bought a car off the road, BMW E30.
Nice.
Forums were just starting out. This was back in 2010, and motorsport was just on its way to forums. I tend to be a bit behind with technology, bizarrely. And I was looking around for a club because people said you have to join a club. These guys just said, just come down for a test session and speak to us and look at the cars. And it seemed like a good series to join. Newcomer friendly, cost effective. I didn't know what I was looking for really, but that sounded good. So I went from there and got stuck in.
Brilliant. So you've done a bit of racing. What's your favourite track to race at then, Miles?
It depends on when you ask me because it changes. It's now, I think it's now Donington. It used to be Brands Hatch because I used to do I've done the most laps I've ever done was on Brands Hatch, and it's good facilities. You're
the second person today to say Donington. So far, Donington Park has 100% of the favourite track likes.
It's a no-brainer. It's flowing. It's a bit varied, especially like the bit with when you do the GP layout and the hairpin. I don't know why, but I seem to do well at hairpins. Okay. So that always gives me a bit of time as well.
Like I said, that was almost going to lead me into the next question. What's the most embarrassing moment you've had whilst either racing behind the wheel of the car or just trackside? Have you done anything silly? Have you done something and thought, oh, what did I do that for? What?
Not particularly silly. I mean, embarrassment. The threshold's quite high. I drive a pink race car, for crying out loud. I mean, not really take myself too seriously. And initially I was quite at the back, just happy to be there.
Yeah.
Which after a while wore off, and I was starting to get competitive and I wanted to beat people. But the most embarrassing, I guess, if you look at the whole picture. So I was at Brands Hatch Grand Prix Circuit, my first weekend ever. I built this up in my head. I was looking forward to it. I was really, really petrified. But this was qualifying, and after a few laps. Actually, the embarrassing thing is I didn't realise, but the car was on its bump stops. I lowered it so much because everything was such a rush and to try and cram everything in, get the car up there, lower it a bit by eye, and it was on the bump stops. And no suspension, and I spun. I got a tank slapper coming down Paddock Hill. Corrected a few times, but ended up stationary in the middle of the road sideways, and after about 10 seconds, I got smashed. And that was my first ever weekend. And that put me out of the weekend, but also that was it for my racing for 2 years.
Oh wow. Okay.
So slightly embarrassing, but also, yeah,
But it didn't
an
stop you
embarrassing
though.
story.
It didn't stop you though.
No, it kind of. I did sell a bit of kit about a year later.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I was completely resilient, because that really took its toll on me. I thought
Yeah.
all that time and effort, and it was about $1,500 worth of damage to the car.
Yeah.
But yeah, got back out there a couple of years later in Alton Park, and yeah, here I am.
Top man, top man. So we're at Donington Park, you and me. All right. And I point
All
over
right.
to a garage. It's got its garage door down, and I say to you, tell me what car you want to take. Any car in the world you can take around Donington Park right now, and I'll make it appear in that garage. What's it
I
going to
thought
be?
you might ask the question. I don't know. For some reason, I've always liked the Porsche 917.
Okay.
The shape, oh my god, it does something special to me. You know, I had that car on a Scalextrics track as a kid. I didn't know what it was, but in later years I thought, oh, that's what it was. It was a Porsche 917. So that car is just godly to look at and ridiculous to drive. So I like challenge. So yeah, it probably a 917 because the rarity and the sheer stupidity of the thing. So yeah, nothing about the pure driving experience. Just that's a cool car.
Exactly. Well, look, mine is a Dodge Viper GTS, and I imagine it would be horrific to actually drive around. So I just had an email. I imagine it's horrific to drive around. But look, Miles, I'm going to let you go in a minute, but just one last question. We have to ask this because everybody wants to know it. If you're a biscuit, what biscuit would you be and why?
Biscuit.
Let's end on a high note.
Biscuit. Well, it'd have to have nuts in it because I'm a bit nuts. Alcoholic and coffee themed.
Well, I like it. Okay. Do you know what? A custom biscuit. I like that. Nobody said that yet. Good one.
Yeah. I like to be a bit different, so probably that biscuit if it existed.
Miles, I was going to let you go, but thank you so much for your time, and I would hopefully see you trackside sooner rather than later.
Good stuff. Good chat, Ian. Thanks. Bye.
Lovely.